this is the point in our kind of our agenda where we try to go back and think through some of the feedback that we received through our whatever feedback process we were implementing last time around. So at the end of the third Eval for Workshop series, we offered people the chance to sign up for phone interviews. And Deborah's been analyzing those. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. This slide is new for our team too, so just so everyone knows, we're learning in real time. So 6 of you participated in phone interviews, which was great. Libby actually did a lot of them, and has commented on how rich it was to talk directly with participants about your experience so far. This I'm going to call a preliminary sharing, and we'll do a more thorough sharing next month. But from the 6 interviews we've had so far, some of the themes that came up as far as what you all appreciate in the workshop series is the clear, timely email communication, the mix of modalities we've used, including some content, then the really practical stories from the field, having guest speakers share. We have another one today, as well as the breakout groups that, in fact, some said they wished for more of that discussion and more share out. And there were quite a few comments about the content and topics we have been covering. The quote, I've included one sample quote for each of these areas, and they may not be exactly verbatim because they're from our notes and we were not recording the interviews, but the one under glows says, "I really liked the last session because it focused on what's right for our respective settings. I like having the guest speakers and hearing about the different projects that people are evaluating." There was also some great feedback around how we could think about changing or improving. For some, the amount of content that we're covering in these 2-hour sessions feels like too much, too fast. And so I was going to go with like, well, what might that mean for our future planning? But we will discuss that as a team and think about it. There was also, so the second bullet says, do something different with learning extensions, ? Essentially, we found that folks are not doing the learning extensions, but are glad that we offer them. So we need to maybe think a little bit about the learning extensions, whether there's any form of gentle accountability that would help folks engage with them more. And then I wanted to elevate one voice. This wasn't as much a common theme as a very important point of feedback from one of the folks we interviewed who really would love to hear the OSU team be a little more open and transparent about where we are at in our own evaluation journey and maybe our growing edges, and also raise the question of both in evaluation but also in a workshop series like this, who is expert, and do we come with this approach that those of us who are planning and facilitating these actually bring the expertise, or is there a model where there might be more of an exchange of expertise from across this group? So that was some really important feedback for us to think about and integrate as we go forward. Here's one quote: "It was a lot for my brain. I was feeling like I was trying to ground a lot of different pieces." So that sense that maybe there's sometimes too much that we're trying to fit into too short a time. And then finally, we asked you all to think about how this is affecting you so far, whether there's been any changes in your thinking or any other effects it's having. There was definitely a theme of from the 6 folks that they keep thinking about the ideas afterwards. Another theme was learning that evaluation can be about topics they had not considered before. Particularly, for example, one comment was that thinking evaluation meant student outcomes, changes in student outcomes, but expanding to the idea that evaluation could be more about internal processes in the organization, or the doing an analysis of attendance, of who's attending. And then there were two of the interviewees talked specifically about having the workshops and the outdoor school gathering happening simultaneously or intermixed. They were a generative combination for them. This series has unfurled and opened some receptors that were hearing things that I wouldn't have heard otherwise. I loved that idea that just participating has made me more open, and then in attending the gathering, I was open to some ideas and thoughts I might not have thought of otherwise. So anyway, great feedback. Anything else, team, you want to offer? Libby, maybe anything you want to offer from your experience?
I really loved the process of doing the few interviews that I did. And I think it's really very cool to have a tool or an evaluation technique modeled. So I got to participate in them by like following along with the questions that we were wanting to ask you all and hear your feedback on. And in doing that, I noticed just how rich the conversation became very, very quickly. And it was a real wake up call to me as I was participating in this, that the minute I started talking with someone, I was getting information and feedback and like perspectives that I would never have been able to access through a survey or a Google poll or a Zoom poll or something like that. So the kind of answers and the richness of the conversations and how much I learned was huge. And it makes me really like this model for getting feedback from people about their experience.